Welcome back to Let Me Land, and this is where I just throw out a little hot topic for Noah to interrogate, try to debate me, and hopefully we can come to some sort of conclusion.
Yeah, we want to give a caveat as well, because last week I was able to land pretty easily because Sean actually just agreed with me. But going forwards, we're going to have a bit more devil's advocating. So if you see me like flaming Sean up for if Sean comes here and says, "Oh, let me land, people shouldn't be starving," and you see me going against that, it's just because it's for the entertainment of you guys at home.
And then we're going to clip it with no context to make sure that it looks like that. So
Viral movie.
All right, so this one's a bit unstructured for me. So you're actually going to have to let me land.
Cool.
It's this idea that capitalism's resilience is rooted in the decline of faith and a godless worldview.
Just took it there.
I just went there. Islam's taken over. It started here, right? Okay, cool. So how do I begin this? Right. It's very hard for us to imagine a world beyond capitalism or an economic system beyond capitalism. And I think the reason for that is because much of the worldview or ontological, philosophical beliefs we believe around how this world is structured is basically aligned with capitalist principles. So what do I mean by that? Well, the modern science, modern belief tells us that we are just basically animals. Our existence is just a mere coincidence, a cosmic accident. And so, as a result of that, there is a type of thinking which lends us to a social Darwinist worldview. Now, social Darwinism is another philosophy which talks about the idea that because we are social animals, we and our human nature is rationally self-interested, we are materially motivated, and so existence itself is survival of the fittest. It's a competition between us, right? So that is the dominant worldview and the dominant narrative that governs basically most of our existence right now. When it comes to this conversation around capitalism and imagining a world beyond it, I like to compare it to two fish in the sea. They don't even realize the sea is there, and one fish asks the other fish, "Oh, so what's all this water? What's this all really about?" And the other fish is just kind of like, "What are you talking about?"
Yeah.
Right? So let me just park that there, okay? So then now, the reason why I think it's so resilient is because the solution to it, which tends to be socialist thought, is actually built on those same principles, those same kind of ontological, philosophical principles. So to kind of extend that out a bit more, socialist thought is built on the same ideas around a material worldview. So we still are animals, and we still are actually motivated by rational self-interest. And so even in Marxist philosophy and actual Marx writings, one of the big contradictions in the literature is this debate between the fact that he actually litters his work with moral reasoning and moral arguments. However, his main argument is that the revolution, the collective consciousness that the proletariat will reach to overcome capitalism is actually going to be in their rational self-interest.
It's all materially defined sort of thing.
Precisely, right? And so modern socialists who actually depart a lot from Marx and those kind of like particular kind of writings anyways, it's kind of like they want to have their cake and eat it too. So they want to basically have this kind of godless worldview, and they want to basically be able to substantiate moral reasoning on principles which actually lends itself better to a capitalist worldview. Because for me, having an understanding of the world not from God or the lack of the spirit, the lack of the soul, necessitates a social Darwinist worldview. It doesn't actually lend itself to having these kind of pretty moral ideas around fraternity, solidarity, etc. And so for me, I actually think religion is not the opium of the people as kind of like commonly misunderstood in a conventional sense, but actually religion is the way that can actually free us from this.
Okay.
There you go.
Bro, I'll be honest with you, I like it when you take it take it there. Take it to
well,
the moon.
it's a bit unstructured, but I think like you can help me tee it out.
That's for all. I'm gonna probe a couple things.
Okay.
So this idea that we need faith to move beyond capitalism or move beyond the material worldview, are you then conceding that the progression out of capitalism isn't materially determined?
Expand on that a bit.
So the Marxist idea that like the economic substructure or the economic underpinnings of our society will progress us out of capitalism as capitalism immiserates the proletariat and creates that sort of class antagonism.
So I think there's a difference between collective immiseration and individual immiseration.
Mm-hmm.
So the collective immiseration point is to say that the class interest will align such that there will be a collective interest to basically revolt.
Yeah.
When in the reality is revolution itself is actually a public good problem. And so it's depending on individuals to step up and actually motivate the masses to take that first public cost to actually galvanize a movement to revolt, so to speak. Now that is obviously very possible, but for me, it can't be done without some sort of otherworldly worldview, some sort of appeal to a moral reasoning that's not substantiated within our kind of material world systems.
That's the part I'm confused about. Do you think that people are not able to discern their material interests? Because if you do agree that there will come a time when there is a material necessity for revolution, do you think people are not able to discern that? Or why is it that we need this transcendent enlightenment?
Because I think that individually, the way capitalism has actually, evolved over time is that modernity has actually brought a lot of comforts to us. It's brought immense comfort. So that kind of self-interested calculation for one to say that actually this is worth giving up to kind of revolt, so to speak, I don't think it holds anymore in the same way that maybe once did, or the reasoning might have once held back in like the industrial times when there really was like a stark difference between, or an obviously stark difference between the living standards between like the very rich and the very poor. Now that does still exist, don't get twisted, but with the explosion of the middle class, I just think that I just feel like to put it very simply, people aren't on it anymore.
I'm going to catch him with a classic essay counterpoint.
Go ahead.
You're only focusing on the West. Immiseration beyond like that ability to have those worldly pleasures of X, Y, and Z and Deliveroos is occurring with the majority of the world, just not in the West necessarily.
I know, but then what underpins a lot of Eastern thinking? I wouldn't say it's a lot of I wouldn't say it's a lot of like atheistic or non-spiritual thought.
No, I agree with what you're saying. My point is more that like you were responding to my argument that in fact material necessity for revolution will be discernible. And you were saying, well, because we have these creature comforts, people aren't able to individually realize that collective
class consciousness.
Class consciousness,
like that,
But then my response was that, well, in fact, that reality of collective immiseration is being seen throughout the world, just not necessarily in the West.
I agree. Okay, no, I completely agree. But I think that is inherently motivated by an otherworldly worldview. And so if you take, for example, the Arab Springs, okay, the ability to rise up against oppression across the Arab regions, people like to isolate that away from the fact that a lot of these people have a theological worldview, a very strong one as well, an Islamic worldview. And so I actually think for many of the people in these, I mean, it's because we're generalizing right now, so we have to be very specific, but they are not addicted to this kind of self-interested matrix that we see that underpins a lot of the thinking in the West. We don't have enough time to get fully into this, so leave your comments below on what you think. But the final point I'm going to try and just throw at you is, what about like the capitalist religious people, the prophet gospel people, that think like capitalism is a savior of Christianity and X, Y, and Z? So I think that is probably the strongest response to what I have to say. And then obviously it would be up to me to basically define exactly what I mean by religion. Because
for you, would that be, you think you're godly, but you're godless?
Exactly.
I hear you, Jesus flipped the table sort of talk.
Precisely. Because actually I think like, okay, cool. In a personal sense, I want to say the way I understand Islam is probably the best way of what I really mean by religion or faith. Sheikh Sean, you know my thing. But actually, there's a really interesting body of work called the perennialist school of thought, perennialism. And what they do, they look at the intersections of all the traditional spiritual faiths, where understanding where it overlaps is what I'm interested in. Because not to say that that's correct or the right way to think about religion, but that's kind of what I mean by faith. Whether it's the Beatitudes that Christ said around how, I don't know, blessed are the meek for they shall inherit the earth, to the prophet talking about taking care of orphans, the zakat you have to pay, etc., etc. So
I hear you.
That's what I'd say.
Honestly, I think that's really interesting thinking. I intuitively, I maybe agree there. In that we.
Sorry, not to obviously expose you as well, but you obviously have some sort of spiritual leanings as well.
Go on, tell them my nickname.
The perennial monotheist. That's what I said.
It's what Sean calls me, the perennial monotheist. I'm not a Muslim yet, but I'm a perennial monotheist.
Yeah.
But no, I appreciate that. I appreciate that sort of thinking. I don't necessarily agree that this is why capitalism is so resilient, but I do appreciate the value in revolution of sort of a godly worldview.
It's complex.
Yeah.
I think, though, it is definitely a spiritual problem, first and foremost, but that's my hot take.
Okay, let us know if you landed that and what you think of that in the comments.